I'm Johnny Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Don't adjust your device. I am Tommy's slightly older, loaded with wisdom brother. So nice to have you all here. Thank you for joining me. James Colin Cares. Aren't you just amazing, dude? Nicole Luongo, thank you for being here. Krista Melinda, thanks for being here. Sweet Liberty, hello. A Rolling Stone, thanks for being here. Somebody with a wrench, do me a favor. If you can, put in Chase the Heat. I want to remind everybody, a lot of guys don't know this. I have a channel over the same platform. It's called Chase the Heat. If you haven't subscribed, you need to. But we're going to have fun tonight. We're going to do a Q&A, and you can ask me anything. And it's really funny. I said to Tommy, this morning, he looked like garbage, you know? So I'm like, hey, I need to do the show tonight. He's like, okay. So I said, I was doing my show an hour ago. So he made the thumbnail while I was doing my show. We were done. I'm like, have you made a thumbnail? He goes, yeah. So I went and looked at it. I'm like, so that's what we're doing. It's nice to see everybody. Brock Bandy, thanks for being here. Hi, Anna. You were a rock star in 1 hot minute tonight. Elizabeth Fraser, nice to see you. Jane Aldrich, hi there. Layla Bradley, thank you for being here. So I try to say hi to everybody. It's nice to hear your name when you join a chat. There's a million things you could do right now, and you're doing this. So I want to acknowledge you. Hi, Maramallo. Thanks for being here. Hope you're doing good. And Tommy, what am I doing? I'm using Tommy's computer. I hope you're doing good. And hope you and Tommy are doing better. We are. Thank you, Lacey Silver. I am actually. Tommy's not. See, I dig pain. That's my get down. Tommy, that's not his. So the body aches for 3 days. I was like, oh man, this is amazing. And he's not doing that. To me, it's not that crazy. I don't know. I remember when my dad was alive, I said, we were talking once. I'm like, we were talking about the flu. I'm like, the flu's a drag, you know, but when you have the body aches and you're in bed and you're aching everywhere, it's amazing. And he's like, I know what you mean. So my dad understood that. But I have a strange relationship with pain. That's it. Hi, Tony Hoban. Nice to see you. Casey, thanks for being here. Anika's mom, thank you for joining us. So on 1 hot minute, on my channel, we have this thing called 1 hot minute where we all eat something hot together. Hi, Lisa Trimble. Thank you so much for doing that. Hang on, let me acknowledge that. In 1 hot minute today on my channel, Anna, TKK, picked own peppers from her garden at 7:30 in the morning and ate them with us. It was great. Thank you, Lisa Trimble. You're wonderful. We appreciate that. I know Tommy does. It's a bummer. You know, the whole man flu thing, I'm kind of a sissy. You know, I'm tough. I can eat hot stuff and I like pain, but I think when they get sick, I don't really turn into a baby. I just want to be alone. I want to kind of suffer in silence by myself. That's kind of how I deal with it. James Collins Cares says 1 hot minute was so cool. It really was. It was fun. I'm sorry if I snagged the wrong name. The stuff is flying by. I'm on a different computer. Did you play an extra in the scene Tommy was stealing road signs? No, that was my brother that did that. That was him. He did a great job in that. I got caught. You want to hear a great road sign story? In my town where we grew up, every Halloween there was pumpkin stealing contest. It's true. It's like it was a big thing in my school. And there would be teams. You could have teams of 4 people. And you would go around and you'd steal pumpkins off of people's porches. It's terrible. It's not funny. I don't listen. It's a bad thing, but it's a funny story. And you'd steal the pumpkins, and then you would have a place to hide your pumpkins while you were stealing them because it would go on for a month or so. So we would have somebody that would try to go around and find where the hiding spots were for teams. But one day I was with I can't say their names, John Cooney and Mike Schmel, but we were driving in this John's station wagon, and it was this massive station wagon. And we had the back, we were stealing pumpkins all night. And the back of the car was just absolutely loaded with pumpkins. And it was bogging down and there was sparks flying. And we were driving over Queechee Gorge. I don't know if anybody has ever seen Queechee Gorge in Vermont. But we were driving over Queechee Gorge and we're throwing sparks everywhere. I look behind us and there's a cop. There's like no chance he's not pulling us over. So instantly there's lights and he pulls us over. So we pull into this parking lot. It's like a small little street, like quaint shops near the gorge. And a couple places to eat lunch and stuff. But it's nighttime. It's like 2 a.m. It's nefarious stuff going on. Queechee Gorge. And it's terrible. So the cop gets us all out of the car. Thank God none of us were drinking. We were just stealing. So he gets us out and he takes it right next to where he pulled over. There was a dumpster. So he has us throw the pumpkins in the dumpster. So we start taking the pumpkins and tossing in the dumpster, which is a bummer because it was a good night of pumpkin stealing. And as we're taking pumpkins and I'm walking to the dumpster, I'm seeing road signs underneath the pumpkins. And the first one I see is a stop sign. And it's not cool to steal road signs. If you steal a street sign, it's a crime. You steal a stop sign. Now, I didn't have anything to do with the signs being stolen. I'm serious. I didn't. I own it. I was the ringleader of the pumpkin stealing, but I had nothing to do with the road signs. And I'm trying to say, like, hey, we keep a few of these pumpkins. Some of these pumpkins were ours. Like, these were ours. He's like, all of them. So I'm like, and he sees this. So we all got arrested. Community service. So my road sign story. That was a big thing, though. See, my town, Tommy and I grew up in a small town. And there was, like, during school, there were sports. And that kept us out of trouble. We were athletes. We played sports every season. We were playing something. But when school was out, it's the problem with the small town. It was a teeny little town. With a small town, there wasn't a lot to do. There wasn't even a stop, like a traffic light in the entire town. Not one. The nearest McDonald's was like 30 in a different state, 35 miles away. I'm not even joking. Sonia, hi, how are you? Kristen liked to steal traffic, light up traffic cones and leave them on friends' porches. On the year prior with the and that's a fun little thing to do. That's not so nefarious. The prior year we didn't get caught. Oh no, I did get caught. I got caught the prior year too. The prior year was even worse, actually. Now that you think about it, I was in a guy's car. I was on a guy's porch, actually stealing it in the middle of the night. I mean, like 11 o'clock. It's close to the middle of the night, and I'm running to the. Mike was driving, and I'm running to the car. And as I'm running to the car, I see a car pull into the driveway. It's the owner of the home. I'm running across his lawn with a pumpkin. So I jump in the car, throw in the back of the truck. I jump in the truck, and it was a truck, and I jump in and we take off, and we got away, but he got the license plate. And it was during football season, and it was a home game. It was a Saturday morning, and I have a game at home. I'm like a starter on the team, and we just get ready to have breakfast, which is a big deal. It's a game. You eat well, and I hear a knock on the door. It's like nobody ever knocks on our door, especially in the morning on a Saturday. I walk around the corner, and it's a cop. There's only one cop in the town. It was Tom. I knew who he was. Here's the worst part. I had snuck out of the house to do all this. So they didn't know I was even out doing any of this stuff. I really feel bad because my dad's like, no, man, my son was in bed last night because he thought I was. Tom's like, he knew better. Tom knew better. But he's like, okay. Shady stuff. Shady stuff. Kareen, how are you? Dale Cox, good to see you. Dale Cox, another savage tonight on the channel. He ate 5 gushers? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So you guys did crazy stuff like that, right? Did you guys ever hear the whole cow tipping thing? Remember that from most people know cow tipping because of the movie Tommy Boy. But it's a real thing. If you've never done it, it's no joke. Cow tipping was a thing. You got to be kind of quiet though, because if you make too much noise, they kind of wake up. And I don't know if they're sleeping or if they're just kind of, they go in the zone, but they're all standing up and they don't really run away. They're just standing there. And the noise, here's the thing, the noise that they make, that's what they didn't get in the movie. The noise that they make when they hit the ground is stunning. You can feel it in your feet. Shouldn't joke about this. But listen, it was a small country town. This is what happens when nobody asks questions. They end up doing this sort of stuff. I know what we'll talk about. We're going to talk about sobriety some more, since this is a sobriety channel. That's a good thing to do. You know what the interesting thing was? When I got sober on my channel, I told everybody on the 1 year mark, and I swear this is the truth. I never said to anybody, listen, you should probably, when you shave tomorrow, take a good hard look at yourself and see if you're drinking too much. I never did any of that. It was just like, hey, I got a problem, but I licked it. I'm a year sober. And so many people, that video has like, I don't know how many views this got, but so many people cite that as inspiration to get sober. So I think sometimes talking about it can be a pretty good thing. You know what I mean? But it's not for everybody. Like I said, if you saw yesterday's stream, I said that I think there are two kinds of people that do get sober. The people that get sober and just live a sober life. And then there's people that get sober and try to inspire and help others. And the truth of the matter is, you guys being here, you guys are helping inspire others, because when you get involved in somebody else's sobriety, it does worlds for your own. Layla Bradley says, do you get to visit your hometown often? You know what? A weird town. No, I went back once. I moved out my freshman year. I came home after my freshman year, and then when I left, I never came back. So I was gone. But I left. I went back after 20 years. It was a really trippy experience. It was 20 years after college. I met with a friend of mine, a girlfriend that I knew in college, and we decided we were going to go to the college that we went to college, and then I wanted to show her the town I grew up in. So first we went to the college I went to, which was the most bizarre experience, because you know the experience when you're in kindergarten or in first grade, the chalkboards, they were regular height. And if you ever go back, the chalkboards are like, it seems how ridiculous. The room seems different, smaller, everything scales all off. You know what I mean? But you think that, I kind of thought that stopped at grade school, you know? So we went back to the college where I went to college, where I met this girl. We were in the same dorm. I was on the third floor. She was on it doesn't matter. It was boy, girl, like that. And we went, the doors were locked. It was parents' weekend. This is a true story. The doors were locked. So I saw some people inside. So I knocked on the door, and they came to the door. They opened the door, and they said, whose kid is yours? They thought we were parents for one of the kids there. I was like, oh my God, I'm old. So we went in there. I went to my room on the third floor. The hallways were this narrow. It seemed like everything had changed. It just seemed all weird. Anyway, that was a bizarre experience. But we left there and went to my town. And I had been there in 20 years. Tommy had a similar experience. But we were walking side by side right in front of the green in the town that I grew up in. And I saw a guy. And I recognized him. I know who he was. I can't remember who he was, but it was somebody I recognized. And he looks at me and he says, "Hey, Johnny," and just looks at me and keeps walking. Like it was like he saw me yesterday and it was no big deal to see me again. And she's like, she stopped walking. She's like, "That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen." She goes, "I thought you said you hadn't been here in 20 years. I'm like, "I haven't." He goes, "That guy hadn't seen you in 20 years? I said, "No, I probably hadn't seen him in 22 years. It's just a weird place. Nothing had really changed. Nothing had really changed. It was a bizarre place. We grew up in a really, really weird town. You know, it was small. Like there were 580 people. Honest to God. Not a lot of exciting stuff ever happened. But you know what? When I was 13, Tommy and I was 13 years old, and our neighbor, his wife, and my sister and I saw it. I was mowing the lawn. I just graduated from pushing the lawnmower to being they taught me how to sit on the riding lawnmower. So I was cutting the lawn. It was autumn. And the only time we could see our neighbor's home was during autumn because the leaves were off the trees. Because in the summertime, there were so many leaves, you couldn't even see the neighbor's house. As a crow flies, it was probably 200 yards, maybe 400 yards away. And I was mowing the lawn, and the lawnmower ran out of gas. So I said, I got to get some gas. My sister was raking stuff on the front lawn, leaves. And I go up, I get the gas can, I come back down, and I look through the trees. I hear the door, I hear her, the wife was yelling at him. Now, this is the guy I picked. We picked apples with this guy in our apple orchard every year. Was the nicest guy. She opened, I watched it happen. It seemed like it was slow motion. I still remember it. It was like it was slow motion. She opened the door, kicked the door open, and she comes out with an armful of rifles. And she threw them all on the driveway. And do you ever hear that, like in the cartoons where someone's on the phone and you hear somebody yelling, rah, 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 like in the phone? That's what it sounded like. It was like, because it's far away. I could hear her like yelling at him. And he picked up one of the guns, and I didn't know it at the time, but it was a shotgun because he broke it open and he shot her. Then he stood over and he shot her again. I watched it happen. My sister and I watched it happen. My sister ran inside to tell my mom, and then he dragged her into the gutter and into the. It's not a gutter. It's kind of the edge of the road. There's a little on the side of the road. There's a little dip. Oh, and he dragged her there and raked leaves over her. And so I'm mowing the lawn. I was a little kid. It didn't really register with me. It didn't. It should have, but it did. Maybe I was younger than 13. I'll have to ask my sister because she remembers. She testified. I was too young to testify, but she did. And he walked right in front of the house. He waved at me. I waved at him. I kept mowing the lawn. He ended up doing like 5 years for that. But the crazy thing was, we picked apples with this guy every year. We had this apple orchard in our backyard. It was a really cool orchard. And he had this long pole with a basket on the end of it made of like a mesh basket with a claw, like mesh with an opening here and a basket here. And you reach over, you grab the basket, you pull down, it would catch in the basket, you drop it down. So you could reach apples way up high. Yeah, 5. Isn't that crazy, Sweet Liberty? 5 years, which I think is crazy. But he would pick apples. He was the nicest dude. Like the town has literally 500 people. They had a state auction when he went to jail. They sold everything. And there were more people there to try to buy the weapons from his home that lived in our town. It was a crazy thing. But that was like one of the more exciting things that ever happened. And I remember, here's a weird thing. I remember being in high school thinking, wow, like the reality of what that was. Because I was too young to even really grasp it. And it was far away. It wasn't real close. And it was weird. But that really did happen. T says, I lived by an apple orchard too. Apple orchards are fun. Yeah, we had the guy that lived in our town named Dwayne, and he was a really cool dude. This guy was like an old Vermonter, and he knew how to graft. He was knew so much, but he knew stuff about everything. He knew how to graft trees, and we had maybe a dozen different apple trees, 2 different pear trees, different types of pears. And just so when full bloom, it was just crazy. There's fruit everywhere. I mean, there's so many trees in our backyard. I mean, it was a legit orchard. And he took slips from all the trees and grafted them on this one big one in the center. And it took him a couple of years to do it all. But in time, when the thing would fruit, there'd be every kind of apple we had in the entire orchard and both kinds of pears all fruiting from the same tree. It was a wicked cool thing to look at. But it was a fun thing. We ate, like Tommy was a freak. Tommy would eat, when we were kids, I would eat apples just like everybody else and throw the core away. Tommy would eat the whole thing every single time. I wouldn't eat the stem, but he wouldn't he would just eat the whole thing. But that was our thing. If you knew how many apples we ate, it was crazy. Constantly. He was a Meep. If you knew how the skills, Meep said he had mad grafting skills. Listen, if you knew the stuff he knew was insane. I remember went to his house. I swear it's a true story. He didn't have a phone until my mom met him he went to our church, and my mom was talking to him. He's like, he had health problems. I was like, well, why don't you call us? He goes, I don't have a phone. She goes, what do you mean you don't have a phone? He didn't have a phone. She goes, well, you're getting a phone. So he didn't have any friends. His wife had died. He was like 70. My mom and dad liked this guy. So my mom forced him to get a phone. He never, ever had an indoor bathroom. He had an outhouse. I'm not even joking, but this guy he had his own garden. He grew all of his own vegetables. He had a block of cheese. He made his own cheese. He made his own everything. And the guy he was just an amazing dude. What was the worst? Here's a good question from Casey. Thanks for the question. Casey asks, what's the worst accident or injury you suffered? What was Tommy's? And there's been so many. I don't know. I mean, I had a really bad car accident when I was 17, July 29th, 1983. I had a car accident that almost killed me. And that was probably all at once. That was the worst. Like collectively, there were a whole bunch of really horrific injuries and they all happened at the same time. Over the years, I've had a lot of bad injuries, but that was probably the worst because it happened all at once. I broke a lot of everything. It was just a very bad accident. And that was probably the worst one that I experienced. I'm not the same, still probably from it. For like 6 months after that accident, when I sleep, my left hand and my left leg would tremor. It was weird. Freaked my family out. But Tommy's, man, he's had so many too. I don't know. I'd have to ask him. He's had some, he's broken one of everything. It's like we both lived really, listen, if I had known I was going to live this long when I was younger, I probably would have done things differently and taken better care of myself. But, hindsight. Lisa asked, did you and Tommy ever get arrested together? Once. I laugh. It's not funny. I laugh because it was an ironic thing. It's funny you ask. It was Father's Day. I don't know what year it was. It was Father's Day. And he and I were running a phone room. And about 3 or 4 days prior to that, we had a woman that worked for us named Nikki, and she quit. And she quit in fantastic fashion. She dropped a letter off at the house with a key in it to her apartment and a letter. She says, I'm sorry, I can't do this job anymore. She said, we had a film camera that a company owned, and it was like $30,000. It was in her apartment. She says, here's the key to my apartment. Please go get the camera so I'm not on the hook for it. That was it. So Tommy and I went over to get to this apartment we had witnesses come with us. I'm not an idiot, neither is Tommy. So we had people come with us to watch, and I grabbed the camera, made sure, and that was it. And she left. It was weird how she left. There was food on the stove in pans. And it was weird how she left in a hurry. Anyway, so that was it. Everything's fine. So I'm driving home on Father's Day. And we both were driving Porsches at the time. His was red, mine was white. I was driving there, and I get a phone call from Tommy. I'm driving home. I'm on Pyramid Highway. I just hit the apartments he lived in. And this phone rings. I answer the phone. He goes, hey, dude. I said, what's going on? He goes, I'm in handcuffs. I said, what? He goes, I'm in handcuffs. I said, why? He says, Nikki filed a police report and said that we broke into her apartment and stole things. I said, well, we had, okay. I have a letter from her saying, and the key. And we have witnesses that went with us. I said, no, this is fine. Let me talk to the cop. So he puts the cop on the phone. The cop's in his house, right? So the cop, the second I hear he's got handcuffs on, I hit my signal. I do a U-turn. I start heading toward his apartment. And the cop gets on the phone, man. I tell the cop, I said, look, man, we didn't, I have a letter from, it was an employee that worked for me. There was a company piece of company property that she had. She gave me wrote a letter I have with a key. I didn't have it on me. It was in my office. Anyway, so I said to the cop, he goes, why don't you come on down? We can talk about this and sort this out. I'm like, listen, this is my first rodeo. I'm like, here we go. So I took I was wearing a Rolex at the time. I took it off because I didn't want to get arrested with a Rolex on. So I took it off and I put it in and I pull into his apartment complex and I walked to his place. And I walk in and he's sitting down at the kitchen table in handcuffs and his wife's there. I'm like, look, so I explained very calmly, and Tommy is ultra calm and wildly polite. should see Tommy. He's just incredibly polite. And I explained to him, I'm like, look, here's the deal. This is what happened. I have a letter. And so he listens to me tell the whole story. He goes, please turn around and put your hands behind your back. I was like, the second I said, I'm not going to fight the cops. I've done that before. It doesn't go well. So I put my hands behind my back and he cuffs me. I'm like, this is just going to get thrown out. This is a waste of your time, my day, his day. Come on. So Tommy was polite like you can't imagine until the cuffs went on me because he thought we were going to get out of this. And then he was. You've seen a Tommy rant? Nah, you haven't. Holy moly. It was something to behold. So we're leaving. We're both leaving in handcuffs. And you would have thought, I remember saying you need more men on the job. There were like 5 cop cars there. It's the most absurd thing in the world. So I didn't want my car, unfortunately, was parked in a good spot. My brother had his Porsche. It wasn't in his own parking spot because somebody was in it when he pulled in. So as we were leaving, he's like, can I park my car so it doesn't get towed and put it in my parking spot? And the cop goes, no. He goes, we'll move it for you. Tommy was just the fact that the cop was driving Tommy's car. It was just, anyway. So we go to jail. We get arrested. So you go down and we go to intake. It was fun. It was the first time. Thank you. I am the Noise Opera. Thank you so much. It was crazy. I've been arrested a bunch of times before, and Tommy had a bunch of times before. So we go through the process. We go through, I'm answering all the questions and sit down away from we both got fingerprinted. And so I'm sitting there in the intake. I look over at him. He looks at me. I'm like, do you know something? He was like, what? I'm like, this is the first time we've ever been in jail together. And he looked at me. He's like, man, you're right. That was the one and only time. And we got out. I bailed out. We got an attorney. Thank you so much, Nick. I love you, dude. I mean it. You're a good man. So we went to court and presented the letter, and the judge apologized to us. So the court apologizes for what you've gone through, and then he says, I suggest that you file a police report against Nikki for filing a false police report. And she was going through it. Let me tell you something. I felt bad. I would have done it, but she was going through so much trouble. She didn't need any more from me. She was working for us. She was one of our callers. And one day she doesn't come to work. I'm like, what in the world's going on? And she tells me that somebody slipped her a Mickey. I'm like, you're kidding me. And I was like, we were horrified. We told her to take the day off and whatever. By the third time that happened, we started calling it slipping her a Nicky instead of a Mickey. It happened to her. I don't believe it was really happening. It was just the excuse she was telling us. But she was a train wreck, and I felt bad for her, so we never actually. Yeah, it's true, Kristen. The judge apologized. He said he felt bad for what we had gone through because I really did have a letter and said, go and get. And we had witnesses there. So yeah, I was with the TCS. It's the age gap between me and Tommy, 4 years, almost exactly. I was born in 1966 and he was born in 1970. He was brought home on my 4th birthday. He was my 4th birthday present. I'm not going to tell the story again because I told the story yesterday. It was a terrible story. It wasn't a terrible story, but it was a terrible birthday present for a 4-year-old. But there have been times in our lives when they're like there's no difference in age now. It's like I'm older by 4 years, but with what Tommy has been through, his life experience, like me to the average person, like I've had more experiences by probably when I was 20 than most people. I've just done a lot of bad things. It's been a long road. You know what I mean? But Tommy's with what he's endured. He's probably gone through a lot more than I have, which is really why I'm really proud of the guy. You know what I mean? It's amazing. If you think about where he's at right now, it's stunning to me. There was a DGB asked, "Where's Tommy? Is he okay?" Yeah, he's just sick. He has what I had. It's kind of in his lungs right now. It's a terrible, whatever it is. It's a body aches like you got hit with a fungo bat. I mean, my body was brutal. Anyway, we were very young. The age was brutal. I didn't want them around me. We were little kids. But then, it didn't. It just kind of. And then there was about a 10-year period of time where we looked like identical twins. Like we really do. You can tell when we're side by side. Like I got a funny picture on my phone of, like I don't know if a lot of you guys saw him when he first got out. He had a goatee like mine, probably down to there. It looked strikingly similar. Sandra Ferguson asks, how is Tommy feeling? He's feeling, he's got body aches that he's not enjoying. I had body aches that I kind of liked. He's hating them, which is a bummer. That's not his get down. So the body aches are bumming him out, and he just I guess body aches was the main culprit. And then on day 3, it went to my lungs and I coughed a lot. But then I got some, I don't even know what cough medicine I used, but damn, it was really, really good. Incarnate Soul says, in addition to peppers, what other hot foods do you like? You know what? It's really funny that you ask. I mean, I eat peppers a lot. That's my main thing. I made 6,000 videos on my channel. When pepper season ends, because it's a seasonal thing, I usually review hot sauces and all other manner of spicy products, right? But the truth of the matter is, if I had a choice, if they said you can choose peppers for the rest of your life, and that's the only heat you could have, or you could do sauce, I'd pick peppers any day over that. I really would. James Collins Cares asks, did you or Tommy ever tell the cops you were the other person? I wonder if I should tell this story. I know I told this story once before. I wonder if I should tell this story. This is a doozy. Okay, I'll tell you this story. This was, I don't know what year it is. This is at the height of everything going south for me and almost everything going south for Tommy. I was a criminal and Tommy was a criminal, and we were just not living a good life. And we no longer driving Porsches. I had a beat up old Capri convertible. The plates on it, it's just everything was bad about this car. The plates on it were mine, but from my Porsche, because this car, it wasn't registered. I was a criminal. Everything was shady. It wasn't insured. Oh my God, this is a bad story. It is what it is. It's in the book. This whole thing, much more elaborate and spelled out, is a part of the book that I wrote, but I probably shouldn't even tell you the story then. We got pulled over, and he was driving. And I'm not going to tell you everything in the car. I'll make you read the book. Just know that there were just a boatload of illegal substances in the car, every type you can imagine. And there was also in the car. All right. Now, this was in the trunk. All right. But it was still in the car. And so the last thing you want a cop to do is to get behind you, right? So we're driving home to my apartment. Tommy and I live together. We're driving home, and we see a cop here, like in front of us on a side street. I said, hey, don't speed up. Either speed up or slow down, but don't let that cop get behind you. Let the cop get in front of you, or And this cop, there was nothing he could do about it. This cop ended up getting behind us, and just about immediately the lights went on. And I was like, oh my God. It was just a nightmare of a situation. So he pulled us over, and he walks around and he says, Tommy's driving. He says, license or registration. He goes, I don't have my license with me. He goes, name? He goes, Johnny Scoville. I went, "Ugh." He goes, "What's your social?" And he told the police officer my social because I know his, and we did that. This is just how it worked. I just didn't know he was going to do it then. So I didn't have a problem. My license was clean. So then he came around to my side. And he goes, "Your name?" I went, "Tommy." And he ran the Tommy. It was a bench warrant for a light speeding ticket or something stupid. But there was a warrant for Tommy. And I just told him I was Tommy. So he goes, "Step out of the car, please." So out of the car. So, "Is there anything in your pockets that'll poke, stick me, or piss me off?" I said, "Maybe the switchblade. You want me to get it?" He said, "No, I'll get it." I had a switchblade in my pocket. So I'm cuffed and thrown in the back of the paddy wagon, and off I go. They take me to jail, and they book me as Tommy. I'm not Tommy. So I'm sitting there freaking out because I don't know what's happening with Tommy. And listen, our lives are different. All right, our lives are changed, but this was a bad time. This is what it is. So went through the whole intake process. I know every bit of information about my brother, and I was pot committed, man. All my chips were in the middle. So I'm giving him all the information. At that time, this is a really weird thing. At that time, almost every tattoo I had, my brother had, because we used to get tattoos together. We go out and we get a buzz on. Let's get a tattoo. We get a similar tattoo or something. So it was just a bad time. Anyway, he asked me to sign. I'm right. Tommy's right-handed. I'm left-handed. I know I'm being videoed. So I reached out with my right hand. I signed his name. And I sit down. So I'm sitting down, and now I'm waiting. I know how if anybody's been arrested, you know how it goes. You sit there for a while. Then they're going to call you up to get fingerprints. I know damn well the minute that this isn't 1985 anymore. There's none of that ink garbage. This is digital. You're going to know pretty quick. So I'm sitting there, oh my God. So they yell my name. So I look up. They said, "You made bail." I said, "You bail?" They say, "Yeah, but come up here and get your fingerprints done." So I go up and I get my fingerprints done. One at a time, just grab, the process, man. Oh my God. So now I'm sitting down. I'm done. Sitting down. It's not going to take them that long to figure out that those fingerprints don't belong to Tommy Scoville. I'm in the system. They know who I am, sort of. So I sit down. I'm waiting. Now it's about who's going to get me first. If anybody's been arrested, once you're bailed out, it's not like you're bailed out. Hey, come on, let's go. We're out of here. It can take you an hour or two. Depending on what day it is, it can be brutal, right? It's just the way it is. So I'm sitting there trying not to sweat, trying to look cool, waiting. Then they yell my name. They said, "Stand up." I stand up, and they said, "Walk to the wall here. Follow that yellow line to the end. Do not vary from it. Follow it to the end. You're out of here." So then I started walking the yellow line to get out of there. I got bailed out before they figured out that I wasn't Tommy. As I rounded the corner, I was just like waiting for them to yell, "Hey, get back here." I just knew it was going to happen. It didn't. I walked out of there, bailed out. Tommy was at the door. If you want to hear how the rest, his side of the story, because I just told you what happened to me. If you want to hear you're going to have to buy the book for that one. But anyway, and that was a bad one. That was a bad one. That was a bad one. We completely got away with that. And But that was the worst one as far as you swapping names. I did it a bunch of times where it didn't go bad like that. And I mean, he did too. I mean, it was pretty routine. Like, in fact, if I got in trouble and I had a warrant, I'd say, hey, listen, don't use my name or social for anything. I got a warrant for me. He goes, when are you going to take care of it? I said, a month or two. He said, all right. And when he would have a warrant out for him, he'd give me a heads up and say, hey, dude, walk the straight and narrow. I'm going to be dirty for a month or two. I got a warrant. So we would kind of, work with each other and cover each other. A lot of times we lived together, so we would know exactly what was going on. Sweet Liberty says, what would have been the penalty if you got caught? It would have been brutal. Here's what actually happened. I should tell you the full side of it. So here's what happened. They say to Tommy, you have to buy the book to hear what Tommy signed it. But here's what ended up happening. They ended up realizing it. Obviously, it's not going to go away. It's digital. This is electronic. It's there. There's a history. There's a picture of me, and it says Tommy Scoville underneath it. And now, there's proof of it. They have proof of it. So he was already in the system for either a bank robbery or I don't know if it was the gun deal. He was inside preparing to go to court, or maybe it was already sentenced or something. No, he was inside preparing to go to court. And they came to him and said he saw that. The statute of limitations had passed. So even though they had found it, more than 7 years had gone by, and they couldn't stick him with it. And that was a huge, if he had got stuck with that, it would have been enough points. It would have brought him it would have changed things dramatically. So it was a miracle that when they did discover it, 7 years had passed and it was too late. They couldn't do anything about it. But that was the only time it went south like that. Usually, I mean, you guys need to read this book. I saw someone ask about the book. The book is, I don't know. Soon, hopefully. I don't know. I would say, certainly at the absolute worst case scenario, the beginning of the new year. I know it's a drag, but it's a terrifying trigger to pull. This is a little teeny story that I just told you, right now, is nothing compared to the rest of the stuff that's in there. And there's a absolutely wonderful story at the end, but with any redemption story, the payoff isn't any good unless the seedy parts are seedy. You know what I mean? So it's, and it is what it is. So it's just a scary thing to decide to do. So that's all. But we're going to do it. I promise you, we're going to do it at some point. But it really would make a great movie. His end of that, what he did on his end was 10 times more remarkable than what happened on my end. If you have to understand that but when I got out of the car, there had to have been, and I'm not exaggerating, 6 cop cars there, 2 cops in each squad car. It looked like a convention. There were so many. And right as I'm sitting there, I'm looking in the rearview mirror like this. Behind me, there's a big cop putting gloves on, going like this. And Tommy's like, oh man, do you see him putting his gloves on? And I said, yep, I sure do. I'll never forget it. It was just a horrifying moment. But if we had gotten caught with everything that was in that car, all the illicit, pharmaceuticals and that thing, it would have been, 30 or 40 years. It would have been a long, long, it would have been a long, long vacation. So I'm glad it didn't happen. I'll tell you, that is nothing. There's the stuff that's in the book. It was that's why I'm terrified about releasing it. I mean, I know that ultimately it's going to be a good thing, but it's one of those, once you do it, there's no one ringing that bell. And, I've been doing this 8 years, so I don't care because what people say about me. I mean, I'm way past caring about that. You can't do what I do and be too concerned about that. So I'm not too worried about what naysayers and what haters say. I really don't worry about that. But what I worry about are people that on my channel, they look at me, I'm admired. You know what I mean? Like in the Chile community, I'm like the guy that rides in on the white horse with the golden reputation, because and over the years, I've revealed a lot more of it. And so people are kind of, they sort of get it, but as my closest friends know a lot of it, but it's just going to be something. James Collins Cares says, proud of where you both have come to now in life. Yeah, here's the thing. The odds are not good. Like, they're not good that either one of us would even be alive still. And if we were, it's remarkable that we're not in cages. You know what I mean? But to be not just not dead and not in jail, but to be sober and trying to help others do the same. I'm pretty proud of that. Like, I'm far more proud of that than like my sobriety. I'm more proud of my sobriety than I am of the silver play button on the wall, like the size of my channel. None of that really matters. Sobriety is what matters. You know what I mean? Because without that, you get nothing else. Everything else falls apart and disintegrates without that, right? Sweet Liberty, it's a great question. Have I ever met Q? I have not. I'm going to one day. I'm telling you, here's the deal. You guys have all heard the court of public opinion. That's what they used to call it. Ask the Menendez brothers. We now live in the day of the judge of the popular opinion. They made a great documentary about the Menendez brothers. Those boys are going to be playing tennis again. Is that right? Is it wrong? Who knows? But my point is, Q's going to get out of there. He's going to get out of there. I know he is. I can't wait to meet him. I can't wait to hang out with him. I love him. I can't explain to you. I love the guy, like, deeply. So I can't wait for that. Stephanie says, I just think that you and Tommy have come through and how you help others. Absolutely amazing. It's full of admiration. You know what, though? Thank you for saying that. Here's the way I look at it. I know this is how Tommy looks at it. We're playing a pretty aggressive game of like catch-up ball. Like, it's a full court press. We're in the last quarter. I mean, I don't know what the average lifespan of a man is, but my body, like, I've not been good to it. You know what I mean? So if the average guy is going to live to be 75 or so, I don't see that for me. You know what I mean? So I got a lot of making up to do. And I know I don't need to do that to get to where I need to get, but it's something that I want to do. You guys have ever seen My Name is Earl? That's me on a bigger scale with just horrific things. And I've got a lot of making up to do. But I'm trying. Anytime somebody says that they're sober because of this channel, I'm so proud of my brother. You have no idea. And I see the emails, and I'm around it when you guys aren't. You know what I mean? He does great. He's the admiral, man. He's good at what he does. He says, between now and then, try to save somebody, and he hits the end button, I'm standing right there. We walk in and we're hanging out together. So, I see his dedication, how much it really means to him. So I'm really proud of him, man. If you had told me, like, when we were sitting in Par Boulevard that day we got arrested on Father's Day, if you had said, hey, listen, fast forward about 20 years or so, 25 years, you're going to be getting people sober, and you're going to be a YouTuber, and I'm going to be eating peppers for a living, helping people get sober. Do you understand the laugh that would have gotten? I mean, it really would have been funny. Would have been very, very funny. My dad used to call my brother and I Frank and Jesse, like Frank and Jesse James. He did it before he even knew. Lord Kiss Freak, my man. Any word on season 2 of Super Hots yet? No, I don't believe there's going to be a second season of Super Hots. I really don't. And here's the truth of it. I had a lot of fun shooting it. It was fun. It was a lot of work. I really don't have an interest in doing a season. If they came to me tomorrow and said, we're doing a season 2, I said, good luck with that. I hope it goes well. I did the Netflix thing. I did the Hulu thing. I didn't have a bucket list. Listen, my bucket list now is just helping people live right. You know what I mean? And being a good example for my children and my channel and people that know me. That's my bucket list. So, but I really don't have a desire to do another season. I don't know. Now I've got other projects in the works that, if they pan out, will look like a season of sorts, but it just won't be Super Hots. Here's the thing that's weird about that whole show, Super Hots. Excuse me. For those that don't know, it was a reality show on Netflix and Disney Plus about was called, it's ridiculous. It was called, the full title was called Super Hots, The Spicy World of Pepper People. When the producer said that to me, I said, pepper people? Who came up with that? Pepper people? I said, how about chili head? And he goes, dude, chili head is only a name that chili heads know. But a pepper people, most people understand what that means. I'm like, I think people will understand what chili head means. But they went with pepper people. I'm going to interview him for that series I'm doing on my channel. I'm going to ask him, what about that lame name for that? But anyway, the show, it was not made for the chili community. You have to understand that, right? It wasn't made for people that eat peppers. It wasn't. It was, the whole point of the show was to kind of pull the curtain back and let, Joe P. Average in America, who doesn't have a clue that there's even something called the chili community, kind of a peek behind to see the lunacy that happens. And that's what it was. You know what I mean? It wasn't made for people in the chili community. But and everybody who saw it liked it, except guess who? Everybody in the chili community that wasn't a part of it was heated for one reason or another, and there was such a backlash. I'm set. I've achieved more than I ever thought I was gonna. So I'm just having a good time at this point. I'm just good. The series I'm doing now is really fun. I started a series for the next 2 years. I'm just interviewing all the companies and the people that were significant in the 8 years of my channel. I'm having a ball doing it. Who said I love Vegemite? Lord Kiss Freak. Man, I do. I'm a huge Vegemite fan. In fact, actually, you know what else I like? Here's the thing. It's actually right there. I just don't want to duck out of the camera. So I have Marmite. I love the taste of Marmite. What I don't like is the stringy weirdness and how kind of sticky and Vegemite's not like that. I mean, a lot of both, but I wish I could get Marmite flavor in the Vegemite consistency. That's what I need. Renee B said, I probably missed it, but how was Tommy? That's quite all right. He's bummed out. His body aches are killing him, and he's not having a good time with it. It's kind of in his chest. So he kind of it did that to me. It kind of settled in my chest, and he's experiencing that. But the good news is I was like 75% well the day after it went to my chest. So hopefully tomorrow he'll mark improvement. And then the following day he should be fine. That's what it was for me anyway. But thank you for asking, Renee. That's kind of you. Dee Marie says, I didn't know there was a chili community. Do you want to hear something funny? When I started my channel, this is a true story. I started my channel 8 years ago. I started because I was watching a video one day of this guy eating a couple peppers. It was a chocolate bootleg. He was eating 2 of them. And my daughter was there. I said, honey, come here, watch this. It's hilarious. And she sat down. My little girl, she was a little girl. She was little. I don't swear in front of my kids. And she sat down. I didn't know he was going to swear, but he dropped a couple F-bombs real quick. And I couldn't cover her ears. I couldn't earmuff it. I couldn't rewind it. I couldn't delete. She heard it. And that was it. It was a bummer. I'm interviewing him, by the way. And we're going to talk about that. Anyhow, so I decided right then there's no channel where, that's family friendly. And that was the motivation for me starting it. But when I started, I remember watching a video, D, about the peppers. And this guy said he used the phrase chili community. I swear to you, I'm just being honest now. I snickered. I went, chili community. Was he joking? The chili community, whatever. I literally said that. I'm not kidding you. So then I started a YouTube channel because I thought I could be more entertaining than that guy was. And I wouldn't have to swear to get the job done. Kids could watch it. And then I realized that there really is a chili community. It's weird. It's worldwide. I have, people that follow my channel, every country in the world. Every country has a group of people that are spice enthusiasts. All of them do. They all grow peppers. I think I saw someone ask what country. I think someone asked what country have the hottest peppers. I don't know because I haven't been to all of them, but I've been to a bunch. There were very hot peppers in Australia. There were very hot peppers in New Zealand. There were not very hot peppers in Squirrel's trying to get in. Hold on one second, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, no problem, Squirrel. I'll get you. Squirrel. Anyway, that was Squirrel. So Philippines didn't grow the hottest peppers, and the reason is it's very, very wet there. And super hots are finicky. They're not easy to grow, and they don't do well with very, very moist, wet climates. And bird's eye do really well. So they grow a lot of bird's eye in the Philippines. But in NZ, I was in there. They had hot peppers. And Belgium has hot peppers, and the UK has really hot peppers. But the hottest peppers in the world that I've ever had are right here. And it's really funny too, because I go to these shows. I've been to a million shows where we have a booth set up and people walk up, and honestly, I've had people say, well, I'm from South Africa. We eat they have a beautiful accent, but we eat that stuff all the time. I'm raised on that. What's the hottest stuff you got? And one peanut has them running. Or I've had people say, I'm from Mexico. I'm raised on that stuff. What I've learned over 8 years of doing this, you don't have a tolerance because of where you're born. That is the nonsense. Period. You can't. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't. It doesn't. But something you got to work at. It's just like lifting weights. Become, overnight. It takes time. TC says, what career in the past besides peppers? Thank you for asking. I ran a pizza joint when I was in college for a little while. I've done a lot of telemarketing work. Was a criminal for a while. That was a good couple decades. I worked at a dating service for a very long time, believe it or not, in the capacity, in every capacity there. I actually was a director. I was the marketing director, sales director, and the director of the office. So I've done kind of everything in the dating service. But then I started this. I was working at the dating service when I started the channel. I worked from home. I would sit there, and it wasn't a dating service like most people think. It wasn't like a Match.com sort of thing. What it was an old-fashioned matchmaking service where people would fill out an application online requesting more information. They would call these people up on the phone and invite them in for an interview. They would sit down. They'd meet them all one-on-one, do a criminal background investigation, credit check. We're making sure you're not meeting riffraff, but they charge like between $7,000 and $10,000 for that. And that's what I did. I did that for on and off for about 18 years. A little bit of criminal activity sprinkled around all of it. And that's kind of what I did. But since I started the channel, I haven't done anything, I gave up the life of crime about 15 years ago. And I've been, I've changed a lot. I've been sober from all hard drugs for 15 years and alcohol for about 5.5. But since I started the channel, it's just this is all I've done. I can't imagine having to do so, if I couldn't do YouTube now, I would probably, I don't know what I would do. Sandra Ferguson asks, what did I go to college for? That's a good question. I went to school. I originally started off as an English major because I love writing, but I didn't want to be a teacher, and so then I kind of switched to political science. And the only reason I switched to political science, and this is the truth, the only reason was because it interfered with my social life the least. That's the truth. But then I hate politics. Did the matching service work? Everyone wants to know. No. Here's the thing. They sold it really well. They sold it really well. Once in a blue moon, somebody would meet somebody, but it didn't happen that often. And that was the bummer, you know what I mean? And I remember when I was the director one day, anytime you had a success story, you made a huge deal of it. And it wasn't to keep the people on the floor happy. It was to sell yourself that you weren't thieves. I think that's what it was for. And I remember one day I was running the market room. This guy comes in, because this is where you meet to actually sit down to meet new clients. It was in the same big facility. This guy comes in holding his membership card because they get one and we get one. So they can track who they're doing. Anyway, he goes, hey, you guys did it. We did it. I want to thank you. He ripped his card up. He says, came in here because I wanted to thank you. I went, see you guys. The program works. Tell us about it. He goes, oh, no, you didn't help me meet anybody. No, your service sucks. But I had so many bad dates with your service, and it gave me the confidence to walk out and talk to people. So I walked up to a girl, talked to her. We're getting married. But I owe it to you. I was like, Oh, thanks. Didn't go so well. So it was just a bad deal. And it was a fortune. It was like 7 to 10 grand. At one period of time, this is a true story. At one period of time, they had a package that was $25,000. For 25 grand, they would come into your house. They would look at your closet and go, oh, here's what we're doing wrong. And they would take you shopping. Of course, you had to pay for all this. You had to buy the clothes. They would teach you like date practice and like literally walk you hand and hold your hand through the whole process. But the reason they dumped that, apparently, that didn't work for them when they had the $25,000 package. The reason they dumped it is chargebacks. They always happen. If somebody complains enough, they're going to give them the money back. I don't care if they've used the service or not. I don't care if we did our job. If they complain enough, they're going to give you your money back. And when someone spends 25 grand and they paid, commissions to a couple people on 25 grand, and then they cancel, they do something called a chargeback. And that was brutal. You'd have a check, you're expecting a check for a couple grand, and you get a check for $55 because you had a chargeback. So they did away with that big one. But I could tell you crazy stories about the dating service all day long. That was the craziest place I ever worked. Like for real, the crazy things that happened in that it was just absurd. It was bizarre. I did, for 18 years, you do something for that long, though, you're going to see some weird stuff. Meet. Can I tell you something? I'm proud of you. You're in a good place for real. Honestly, what you're going to find here, I mean this, it's judgment-free support. Everybody here has been broken, beautifully broken, but you'll get support, and that's all. It's what we all need, honestly. I don't know if this is the first time you've been here, but please make sure you keep coming back. And I'm glad you were comfortable enough to share that. That's pretty cool. All right, you guys. Does anybody have any more questions you guys want to ask? I've kept you guys here for an hour. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, I'll let you guys get back to your evening. Hold on a second. This is great. Heather Mack says, finding this channel is helpful for me. No addictions. Brother, best friend, becoming sober has saved our relationships. I'm always happy to see you doing your best at harm reduction. That's pretty cool. You know what? Here's the thing, man. I think it's not talked about enough, but I think honestly, one of the most important parts about this is that when you become active, you become a participant in somebody else's sobriety. Honest to God, it does so much for yours. You know what I mean? It means something different. And what it is we're all getting through it together. We're all in the same boat. So it really is an important thing. And I don't know. That's why, I every month, people that watch my channel will email me their sobriety date, a little screenshot of the app they use. I can't tell you what that does to me. That to me, that's like the best paycheck. That's better than the paycheck I get from YouTube. You know what I mean? Because one, it's gone in a month or two, you know what I mean? But the other one lasts forever. When you get sober, you affect the lives of so many people. You change the course of direction. You change things. It's a beautiful thing. And then my favorite analogy ever is the guy that walks along and falls into a hole. That's the most beautiful analogy I think I've ever heard. Renee says, do you prefer straight hot or spice and flavorful? Here's the great thing. Back in the day, it was almost a one or the other thing, but there's so many really great small craft hot sauce makers that you can really get both. There are some amazing companies that are incredibly flavorful, but it's really, really hot. Have you ever seen people that get hiccups from eating something hot? It happens to people. It doesn't happen to me. I don't know why. It just never happens to me ever. And there's a company called Hellfire Hot Sauce. And they have a sauce called Double Doomed. And the reason it's Double Doomed, they had a sauce called Doomed. And it was 2.4 or 2.6 million Scoville heat units, which is really absurd. They decided to make one called Double Doomed. And it's 6.6 million Scoville heat units. And it really is. And, oh, no, excuse me. That one's up 4. It has 6.6 million extract in it, but it's over 4 million Scoville, the sauce itself, which is. Anyway, I reviewed that sauce about maybe a year ago, and I got hiccups for the first time in my life. And that sauce is wicked flavorful and hot enough to make me hiccup. So check them out. Look into Hellfire Hot Sauce. They're spectacular. But listen, you guys, thank you for your time. Thank you. Do me a favor. Positive vibes, good wishes, thoughts and prayers for Tommy. He's a good guy, you know. And I don't, you know. It's like the duck. The duck on top is kind of cool, but what he's doing below to make himself, you know, the legs are going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Even when he's sick, he's responding to people. He was on the phone with people yesterday. You know, it doesn't stop for him, but it's the way he lives for us. So just thank you, everybody. I appreciate you all for being here. You know what? I wish there was a way. Let me see if there's a way. There's not. Everybody who was here tonight, thank you so much. If I didn't say your name, please forgive me. I thank you guys for being here. Hopefully, Tommy will be back tomorrow, and you won't have to stare at my ugly mug. If you want to stare at my ugly mug, please go over to Chase the Heat. Right here, just type in Chase the Heat, and you'll see me. I've got a lot of videos there, and if you enjoy it, if you enjoy spicy content, it's kind of like this, but instead of talking about sobriety all the time, we're talking about peppers. But almost everybody on my channel is sober. Thank you guys. You're awesome. I love you. Be kind to somebody. Until next time, try to save somebody.